This is the Ielts listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to Part 1. Part 1.
Listen to the conversation between Fred and Mary, who are talking about a farewell party, and answer questions 1 to 4. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Mary, thank God you're here. We've a ton of work to do if we're going to get everything ready for tonight. Whose idea was it to have this going-away party for Christ anyway?
It was your idea, Fred. Remember?
Hey, I suggested a small get-together for a few close friends. I didn't mean inviting half the university.
Well, it's too late now. We have about 3 hours to get everything under control. Have you got that list of things we need to do?
Yeah, it's in my room. Hang on, I'll go get it. Hell, I can't find it.
What do you mean you can't find it?
I can't find it. What do you think I mean? Damn, I remember I left it in the library.
Okay, cool down. We'll manage. I can remember what's on it. Let's check the food and drink situation. Did you arrange the beer?
Yeah, Jim said he'd bring 10 cases of cold Budweiser, ice and a couple of big bins to keep it cold. Says he'll get here around 5.
You know Jim. He'll probably turn up drunk around midnight.
No problem. I phoned him a few minutes ago. He's at Jenny's place. She's keeping him away from alcohol until he's delivered everything safe and sound. What about the wine? You said you'd look after it.
Oh my God, I completely forgot. What's the time?
3:30.
Okay, I'll go to the liquor store and sort it out. Will they deliver?
No problem. But you'll have to pay up front.
I reckon about 60 people will turn up. Allow for half a bottle per person. That makes 30 bottles, half red, half white. What do you think?
That should be enough. Better to have too much than too little. Why not make it 40? 25 red and 15 white.
As the conversation continues, answer questions 5 to 10.
Yeah, I guess most people prefer red. Where's the nearest liquor store?
Not far. Go out the front door, turn right. Sorry, left. Take the 2nd street on your right and it's 300 yards down on the left, just before you get to the park.
Okay, I'll go in a few minutes. Let's first make a quick list to make sure we haven't forgotten anything. Glasses. What about glasses?
Sally borrowed 100 beer glasses and 100 wine glasses from the student bar. They're in the cupboard. Should be enough.
Yeah, should be. And what about the barbecue?
I've got 2 barbecues and plenty of charcoal out the back. And Jane and I spent 3 hours yesterday getting the steaks, chicken legs and sausages ready. They're all in the big fridge. Should taste terrific. Tons of garlic, pepper and soy sauce. No MSG.
Sounds good. What about plates and things?
Sally has looked after that as well. She's borrowed them from the bar too. They're in the cupboard with the glasses. You know Sally refuses to use throwaway things. Bad for the environment.
Good for her.
Oh, just remembered. Could you pick up another 20 loaves of French bread and a few packets of paper napkins?
No problem. Is there a shop on the way?
There's a supermarket just before you get to the liquor store. Can you manage everything or should I go with you?
I'll manage. I've got this huge rucksack. No problem. Damn, just remembered. I'm over my limit on my credit card. Have you got $500 on you? We'll work out who owes who how much later.
No problem. I took out $1,000 this morning. Here's 500.
Ta. OK, I'll get going. See you in a while.
Ciao. See you.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1. Part 2.
You are going to hear a talk by Richard Thomas, who is the head of the chemistry department of a college. He is going to give a brief introduction of the college, and you must answer questions according to what you hear. Now first look at questions 11 to 15.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Royal Hospital College. What a beautiful September day you've brought with you. My name is Richard Thomas. I'm the head of the chemistry department, and today it's my pleasure to introduce our wonderful college to you. Normally, the dean, Professor John Thomas, yes, we share the same surname, likes to do this. But unfortunately, he has a bad case of flu, so he's doing the sensible thing and staying in bed. He sends his apologies, but you'll be meeting him soon, so no big problem. I'm sure you are all so excited at the thought of studying here that you have read all about the history of our school. But for those who haven't, I'll give you a brief summary as we walk around. The college was originally founded in, anybody know? Yes, 1694 by William and Mary of Orange. Can you remember your high school history? Right. William of Orange was a Dutch prince, married to King James II's eldest daughter, Mary. 1694, poor Queen Mary died of smallpox the same year. Actually, the school was not a school in those days. It was a hospital for retired sailors of the Royal Navy. And it wasn't here, in the beautiful countryside of East England. It was located in what is now East London, on the banks of the River Thames. Back in those days, it was also in the countryside, but London grew and grew, and by the end of the 19th century, it was surrounded by houses and smoky factories. So, after the Second World War, a New Zealand millionaire named Sir Gifford Reed kindly gave the school £65 million to move to here. He was an architect, and he designed much of the beautiful school that you see today. It opened in 1933, and if you look to your right, there is a statue of Sir Gifford Reed facing that other large statue of Queen Victoria.
As the talk is going on, answer the questions 16 to 20.
Okay, let's jump back to the 1700s. In the 1780s, the Royal Hospital was changed into a school for the orphans of officers and men of the Royal Navy, and they added the word college to the name. For nearly 100 years, it was coeducational. But in 1868, the Board of Governors decided to make it boys only. Much more boring, don't you think? And it stayed that way right up until 1991, when the school became coeducational again. Okay, and here we are at the school church. Do we have any musicians with us? You? Wonderful. What do you play? Piano and organ. Oh, you'll love it here. Our church has the largest organ in England, and we often have recording companies, the BBC, etc., coming here to record. And our staff and students are more than welcome to play it. In fact, there's a waiting list. It's very popular. In fact, the school is very well known for its choir and orchestra. I sing in the choir, and last summer we toured North America. Great fun. A healthy mind in a healthy body, as the Romans used to say. Which brings us to our gym and swimming pool. Both are open from 6 in the morning till 11 at night, 7 days a week. The gym has everything you need for aerobics, weight training, martial arts, basketball, gymnastics, and even an indoor running track. So there's no excuse for not keeping fit. And of course, we have all the usual team sports: soccer, basketball. Our women's basketball team won the All England Universities Championship this year. Rugby, water polo, no American football. So you see, we are quite a sporty lot here. And we also study sometimes. Here's the main library. I'm afraid we can't go in because it's being redecorated. It's supposed to open again this Wednesday, but it looks to me that it'll be a bit late. And here's the coffee shop. Why don't we stop here for a drink? Agree? Jolly good.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2. Part 3.
You will hear a man inquiring about college courses. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25. Hi, can I help you?
I was told to come here because I'd like to talk to someone about taking a management course.
Right, I'm one of the tutors, so I should be able to help you.
Oh, good. My name's Brian Ardley. I've decided to enrol on a part-time management course. A friend of mine took one last year and recommended it to me.
Right.
Is there anything I should do before the course, like reading or anything?
We prefer to integrate reading with the course, so we don't give out a reading list in advance. But we like people to write a case study describing an organisation they know.
I've already done that, as my friends told me you wanted one. But would it be possible to sit in on a teaching session to see what it's like? I haven't been a student for quite a while.
Fine. Just let me know which date and I'll arrange it with the tutor.
Now, could I ask you about the college facilities, please?
Anything in particular?
Well, the course is 1 day a week, all day, isn't it? So presumably it's possible to buy food.
Yes, the refectory's open all day.
Does it cater for special diets? I have some food allergies.
Provided you warn the refectory in advance, it won't be a problem.
Good. What about facilities for young children? I'd like to bring my daughter here while I'm studying.
How old is she?
3.
Then she's eligible to join the nursery, which is supervised by a qualified nursery nurse. The waiting list for a place is quite long, though, so you ought to apply now.
Okay.
I don't know if our careers advice service would be of any interest to you.
Yes, it might help me decide how to develop my career after the course.
The centre has a lot of reference materials and staff qualified to give guidance on a one-to-one basis.
I noticed the fitness centre next to the college. Is that for students?
It's open to everyone, but students pay an annual fee that's much less than the general public pay.
And presumably the college library stocks newspapers and journals as well as books.
Yes, and there's also an audio-visual room for viewing and listening to videos, cassettes and so on.
Is there also access to computers?
Yes. Your tutor will need to arrange with the technical support team for you to get a password, so ask him or her about it when you start the course.
Okay.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
By the way, do you know about our business centre?
No? What's that?
It's a training resource, a collection of materials for people to study on their own or use in their own organisations.
Uh-huh. You mean books and videos?
Yes, and manuals for self-study, plus a lot of computer-based material so people can work through them at their own speed and repeat anything they aren't sure about. And you can hire laptops to use in your own home or workplace, as well as printers that you can take away.
Does it have anything that I could use to improve my study skills? I don't have much idea about report writing, and I'm sure I'll need it on the course.
Oh yes, there's plenty of useful material. Just ask one of the staff.
Does the centre cover all the main areas of business?
Yes, topics like finance and of course marketing, that's a popular one. Local managers seem to queue up to borrow the videos.
So it isn't just for students then?
No, it's for members only, but anyone can join.
How much does it cost?
£100 a year for a company and £50 for an individual, with no discounts for students, I'm afraid.
Well, that's very helpful. Well, I think that's all. I'd better go home and fill in the enrolment form. Thanks for all your help.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3. Part 4.
You will hear a talk on a social history of the East End of London. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
In the last few weeks, we've been looking at various aspects of the social history of London, and this morning we're continuing with a look at life in the area called the East End. I'll start with a brief history of the district and then focus on life in the first half of the 20th century. Back in the 1st to the 4th centuries AD, when the Romans controlled England, London grew into a town of 45,000 people, and what's now the East End, the area by the River Thames and along the road heading north-east from London to the coast, consisted of farmland with crops and livestock, which helped to feed that population. The Romans left in 410, at the beginning of the 5th century, and from then onwards the country suffered a series of invasions by tribes from present-day Germany and Denmark, the Angles, Saxons and Jutes, many of whom settled in the East End. The technology they introduced meant that metal and leather goods were produced there for the first time, and as the East End was by the river, ships could transport goods between there and foreign markets. In the 11th century, in 1066 to be precise, the Normans conquered England, and during the next few centuries London became one of the most powerful and prosperous cities in Europe. The East End benefited from this, and because there were fewer restrictions there than in the city itself, plenty of newcomers settled there from abroad, bringing their skills as workers, merchants or moneylenders during the next few hundred years. In the 16th century, the first dock was dug, where ships were constructed, eventually making the East End the focus of massive international trade. And in the late 16th century, when much of the rest of England was suffering economically, a lot of agricultural workers came to the East End to look for alternative work. In the 17th century, the East End was still a series of separate, semi-rural settlements. There was a shortage of accommodation, so marshland was drained and built on to house the large numbers of people now living there. By the 19th century, London was the busiest port in the world, and this became the main source of employment in the East End. Those who could afford to live in more pleasant surroundings moved out, and the area became one where the vast majority of people lived in extreme poverty and suffered from appalling sanitary conditions. That brief outline takes us to the beginning of the 20th century, and now we'll turn to housing. At the beginning of the century, living conditions for the majority of working people in East London were very basic indeed. Houses were crowded closely together, and usually very badly built, because there was no regulation. But the poor and needy were attracted by the possibility of work, and they had to be housed. It was the availability rather than the condition of the housing that was the major concern for tenants and landlords alike. Few houses had electricity at this time, so other sources of power were used, like coal for the fires which heated perhaps just one room. Of course, the smoke from these contributed a great deal to the air pollution for which London used to be famous. A tiny, damp, unhealthy house like this might well be occupied by 2 full families, possibly including several children, grandparents, aunts and uncles. Now, before I go on to health implications of this way of life, I'll say something about food and nutrition.